Friends and subscribers, this is China News for December 2014. Happy New Year wherever you're at, and let's get right into the news of December. Growth set for further slowdown. Chinese officials coming out and saying that growth for 2015 is predicted to be at a 7% GDP growth. 2014 estimates were 7.5, but actually the numbers are beginning to trickle in, where they predicted it'll actually finish about 7.2, 7.3%. No surprise. Not too far off their target because, again, the Chinese government manipulates their numbers so that they are exactly close to what they predicted they would be. Now, among these growth factors set in for next year, one of them has to do with heavy equipment and construction, which continues to rage on, and there's no end in sight for that. Shockwaves felt throughout the world as the ruble slides and the attack on the ruble continues. When your currency falls as much as 30% in such a short period of time, people take notice, and it should be something that the Chinese central government takes notice of too, because what it shows is that dollar incorporated is still very, very strong, and the petrodollar still holds its sway over other currencies in the world. Currency raiders such as George Soros and his people and other hedge fund managers, and certainly the Federal Reserve, which has its fingers in a lot of different pies that it shouldn't be, are showing that if they want to take down a foreign nation's currency, they can do so very easily, very effectively, and they certainly are not afraid about retaliation. So the ambitions of the Chinese to have the renminbi as a world reserve currency, they should take note of this, because let it be a warning to them, a shot across their bow and any other nation that wants to challenge dollar incorporated, that it's not going to be so easy. When we see that most nations hold U.S. dollars in reserves, if for nothing more to back their own currency. So what's it going to be? Is it going to be you're going to punch the bully in the face? Are you going to knock him down or knock him out? Because you're going to have to knock the dollar boys out completely in order to take over the position as top dog and the petrodollar in the world. Again, it's a warning to the Chinese or anybody else that doesn't want to play ball, that these people are all powerful, and they simply cannot be stopped and have no ambition other than to continue to make the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency and the petrodollar going forward. The cartoon of the month is a very telling one, and it shows exactly what's happening with this currency war that has been going on for quite some time. You see in the picture Pirate Obama making Putin walk the plank over what is a stack of currency, in this case ruble. It shows that, like I said before, U.S. dollar incorporated is all powerful, the petrodollar still reigns supreme, and the boys are going to do anything that they can to make sure that it remains that way. So it's basically an attack on Russia, yes, but also a veiled warning to all other nations that want to challenge dollar incorporated. If you don't play ball, you're going to walk the plank, just like this cartoon depicts. You're looking at a picture of Hong Kong municipal workers clearing out the last of the remaining Occupy Central protesters. So the Umbrella Revolution, the movement, is officially over now in December 2014. And we can clearly see that the central government in Beijing now has complete control over the press, politics, economy, anything that you want to put in dispute, because the Hong Kong officials did not hear the demands of the Hong Kong people. And it is clear that this is definitely a warning to Taiwan, as the same events we could be seeing in Taiwan as early as a decade from now, under my estimations. Like I said, you'll see in this clip, it was a good showing, but there are many reasons why it did not succeed, and there are a couple of main ones that I want to point out to you. Like I said in the beginning of the movement, unless the people with money and political clout in Hong Kong get involved, that this thing has no future, and that was the case. Nobody of any importance had any skin in the game, and if that happens, any revolution is going to pound sand. And the Hong Kong Authority was brilliant, really, when you think about it, in their handling of it. They let the students protest. They were very gracious to them overall. There were some incidents, but they basically just stood by until they wore themselves out, and then they came in and swept up at the end. And all that remains is basically some graffiti. Now a probe by the Hong Kong central government will be conducted to find out if charges can be brought up against the leaders of the Occupy movement. So again, as being down there and talking to a lot of the protesters, and for several days seeing exactly what had occurred, it becomes clear that basically the concerns of the protesters and the Hong Kong peoples were not being heard by the Hong Kong officials. And it's very clear that the Hong Kong officials are puppets of the central government in mainland China. So Beijing controls Hong Kong now. There's no doubt about it whatsoever. And any kind of protest movement or revolution is going to be like fighting a guerrilla with a pea shooter. Many curious news reports coming out this month that I want to show you that kind of explain what the culture is like here. First one, counterfeit Viagra seized by police. This should come as no surprise, but a large percentage of Viagra and other brand name pharmaceuticals in China are fake, even though the packaging looks legit and it may come from the same supplier as the real stuff. So you never can really trust what you're buying here at any price, because it's, you know, what the Chinese are good at. They've been doing it for a long time as part of the culture, and it continues to rage on despite anti-corruption and anti-counterfeiting measures by the central government. Court orders apology for gay cure scam. Now this is interesting because when I first came to China many years ago and had some discussions with people, they told me that homosexuality didn't exist in China, that it wasn't a Chinese thing, that it didn't come out of China organically, that it's a foreign thing. They see it as being a disease. And so all of these companies and doctors around China were allowed to market themselves as being able to provide a cure for gays. And this is one of the very strange cultural things about China that is hard to imagine. But only recently, in fact this month, has the central government admitted that homosexuality is not something that can be cured. It's something that happens and occurs naturally. It's basically how you're born. But here we are, almost 2015, and it's taken this long for this culture to admit something that is obvious to others. The third oddity in culture here this month is village votes to expel HIV positive child, probably because, like the article says, they think that they're going to be somehow infected. Again, not enough education and understanding of what HIV is. So it's very curious that their mindset is perhaps stuck back in the 1980s in terms of things like this, issues like this. Well, they'll throw out a child away from its family because it's HIV positive, because they're not educated properly on exactly what it is, and the government party line is not something that we can say would be exactly admirable along these lines, if you know what I mean. A very interesting phenomenon has occurred in China, and it has to do with luxury goods and quality of foreign goods. One Chinese customer that buys from overseas merchants says that a motive for shopping overseas websites at the very beginning was because of safety concerns, not trusting milk powder and everything related to baby products. And now it's kind of snowballed into other areas. Easy access for Chinese to go abroad also helps luxury products of foreign merchants to be purchased. The popular practice that is occurring throughout China is that despite the high cost of foreign goods because of taxes and tariffs of imported products coming into China, more and more Chinese are buying the real thing from Western merchants such as Macy's or eBay USA or some of the couture luxury designers that have a very specific product line. They're buying directly and shipping all the way over, paying that shipping cost because they're concerned with fake goods. Even from the so-called distributor in China, they're not 100% certain that the packaging, even though it may look kosher, is going to contain the real thing. And like I've said before many times, there can be several different variations of the same product for each area of the world. The Chinese edition is always a little bit less enticing than the Western version, whether it's in terms of feature set or size or quality or build. Something is different about when it comes to China or it's manufactured in China underneath the Made in USA label. So they're just buying directly from manufacturers, paying that cost, and it shows that despite the unfair trade practices around the world of so-called free trade, there are niche markets where retailers in the West can sell their goods to China based on their high quality and exclusivity. A huge area of concern for Macau is that gambling revenues plunged by 23% this past October, the largest drop since it's ever been recorded in Macau. And this has a lot to do, like I said, with Xi Jinping's anti-graft campaign to destroy corruption. Macau is one of the leading places for the distribution and laundering of funds from mainland China. And what this is basically going to do is it's going to create another area where funds can be laundered, whether that's in Hainan in the South Island region in China or Taiwan or some other place is going to pick up the slack because there's just too much corruption, and the anti-corruption measures do have an impact, but it's not enough. This is a quick look at China's trade with Central Eastern Europe, and we see here that Czech Republic and Poland are big trading partners with China compared to some of the other smaller nations. And this certainly is often overlooked as Central Europe is dwarfed somewhat in GDP compared to Eastern and Western Europe, but there it is. Poland with quite a significant amount of trade with China compared to some of its neighbors. And also we see here that the population, of course, is higher as well, which may explain for some of these numbers, but we'll see that these numbers will increase, and if China gets its Silk Road, New Silk Road underway and is able to connect these trading partners, these numbers will certainly be bigger than we see here.